Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we have a really big update to talk about coming out of the LCS. It's another day, another banger over at TSM. Obviously 2022 has been a year to forget in a lot of ways for Team Solo Mid. They want to probably move on from this whole year, this whole season, everything that's happened as soon as they can. But to get past all this stuff, we have to get through all this stuff. We have to, kind of tie up all the loose ends and all that stuff. And part of that is finding a conclusion to the whole Peter Zhang situation. And kind of unexpectedly, that's what we got today, at least the day that I'm recording this video. I think it's probably going to come out on YouTube tomorrow. But this is what we saw. We got this from the LCS. Again, we knew this was going to come eventually. I didn't really know when to expect it or what they were going to find or how long it was going to take or whatever. But we got the competitive ruling on Zhang, Peter Zhang Yi. Read now at lolesports.com. We got this little article, so let's see what's going on. If you guys don't remember, obviously Peter Zhang was a TSM coach. He was like the academy head coach for a while. He coached with the LCS team. He's been with TSM for a while, like 2018, 2017, something like that. He was accused of kind of working with like agents to like setting players up and being like, hey, go for this agent. I can get you on TSM, whatever. And it turned out, obviously he worked for TSM, but then he was also maybe working with some agents, stuff like this. He also like asked Doublelift and a bunch of other TSM players and members for money to help pay for his like grandma's cancer treatment or something like that. And apparently, Sword Art, when he was living in North America, he had a car. He moves back to Taiwan or China or whatever, and he asked Peter Zhang to sell the car for him so he can get the money back and ship it on over. Peter Zhang sells the car, never sends him the money. Hey, whatever. It's all alleged. There's a million different things going on here. Really weird, crazy situation. So let's see how it all concluded. And this is Riot's competitive ruling. TLDR, Peter Zhang Yi is permanently banned from any association or affiliation with a team or organization in a Riot-sanctioned competition for engaging in what we believe to be alarming and unethical behavior towards current and former TSM players and staff. Peter Zhang violated the LCS rule set as well as the LCS eligibility and release agreement by diverting portions of player salaries to accounts belonging to Peter Zhang and his associates by misleading and failing to fully compensate a former TSM player for the sale of the player's car and by soliciting loans from TSM players and staff. So pretty much the three things I just tried to summarize at the beginning of this. Seems like they are believing he is guilty of all three of those. Now, I don't know. Obviously, this is just Riot's investigation. Maybe there's still some alleged stuff or maybe some stuff still up in the air. But this is what Riot's found. And obviously, they were confident enough about their findings to not suspend him, not fine him, not suspend him indefinitely, permanently ban him from the Riot ecosystem, which is pretty crazy. I mean, obviously, we don't get people permanently banned all that often. Usually, people will get, like I said, suspended, fined, suspended indefinitely. It'll be a 1 year, 2 year suspension, something like that. But in this situation, again, if all this stuff is true, one, I do think a perma ban was probably warranted. So I say kudo to Riot for actually, coming down hard on this, because this overall was a really disgusting situation. And a guy who had shown on multiple different occasions, if this stuff is all true, that, like they said, this is alarming, unethical, whatever behavior. And it's not just one situation. It's like multiple different situations, multiple different occurrences in each situation. Like, this guy just is bad news, it sounds like. But also, even if Riot didn't permaban him, like, who was going to bring on Peter Zhang at this point? He had to leave the United States. He left back to China, as soon as he could. Things were not going to end up well for him. So, he had to get the heck out of town. Now he's in China. Nobody's heard from him, anything like that. So who knows what the heck's going on, but it's not like any team was going to be bringing him on anytime soon anyway. So it's like a perma ban, but I think there was already kind of a, unofficial perma ban on Peter Zhang in the whole esports scene. And like I said, it's for the better. It seems like, he has his own issues and demons and whatever to figure out and deal with and all that stuff. He doesn't need to be around esports. He doesn't need to be around these businesses. He doesn't need to be around, young, impressionable people that are also running into large amounts of money and stuff and having, kind of scumbags like him take advantage of them and trying to take away their money and do all this weird stuff, which is even crazier because at the same time, Peter Zhang was a trusted member of a huge esports organization. I'm sure he had a comfortable salary. I'm sure he had a great life and was set up for a great future and was just going to have unlimited opportunities going forward. All he had to do was not do all this stupid shit and he would have been just fine. So it's even tough for me to feel too bad for him, but obviously he has some issues and things going on, and I do hope he can get his life figured out, because I don't know what's next for him at this point, because obviously, for I'm sure a greater portion of his adult life, if not all of his adult life, it's been centered around esports and coaching and building up this whole thing and building up a career. Now he's going to have to be starting over. And I know some people are like, hey, he's going to be fine. He got the bag and did the dash, but it's like, how much money did he really end up with? It's not like, I doubt he has enough money to live for the rest of his life or anything like that. Even if he made off with several $100,000, which I don't even know if it was that much at the end of the day, because it sounded like he kept getting money and kept spending it and blowing it and stuff. It's very possible that he doesn't even have much, if any, of this money at this point. He's still got a whole life ahead of him to live and figure this shit out. So who knows for sure, but context here, all LCS players and staff members must abide by the LCS rule set. Furthermore, all coaches must agree to and sign the LCS eligibility and release agreement upon addition to the LCS roster. Section 2 of the LCS ability and release agreement mandates that LCS players and coaches agree to abide by these standards, all this stuff. But here's the timeline. Peter Zhang joined TSM as their academy head coach in 2018, so he's been with them for 3 or 4 years. He progressed through the organization, ascending to the role of head of player development in December of 2021. Pretty recently, 9 months ago. Throughout this time at TSM, Peter Zhang was listed as a coach, agreeing to and signing the LCS ability and release agreement. On March 18th of 2022, TSM had terminated him. They then retained a third-party law firm to investigate these allegations of wrongdoing. TSM and the third-party law firm fully cooperated with the Riot investigation by providing a comprehensive overview regarding Peter Zhang's behavior while he was affiliated with the team. Between December 2021 and February 2022, Peter Zhang diverted approximately $250,000 in salary payments from two TSM players. The two concerned players were to receive a significant portion of their salaries through a third-party entity, the entity in China. The entity sourced multiple bank accounts from the players in order to deposit their salaries. Peter Zhang provided the entity with accounts supposedly on behalf of the players. However, the accounts provided were overwhelmingly affiliated with Peter Zhang. As a result, the majority of the players' salaries were diverted to accounts owned by Peter Zhang. That is crazy. So, I guess he did end up with a decent chunk of money here. Again, it sounded like he had a pretty crazy spending problem as well. So even though he ended up with $250,000, who knows how much of this he still has or anything like that, or who knows how much of this people are going to be getting back. Maybe not much, since he's now off in China and God knows what's going on now, but maybe people will be going after this money. I really don't know. And that's the other crazy thing, is that, who knows if jail time or anything was a possibility from this whole situation. But what's super, super interesting is that they say between December 2021 and February 2022. That means this past offseason. So this isn't, in the past. This isn't, hey, he was working to get Sword Art here, or he was working with some other Chinese player in the past. That is this offseason, which only leaves a couple of different options. They say, 2 players. And I know Shen Yi had come out on Twitter and been like, hey, I have nothing to do with Peter Zhang. I'm not associated with this guy. I had no part in this. But maybe he did. And I think the name for sure that everyone goes to is Kaido. It seems like Kaido was involved in this situation. I'm not placing any blame on Kaido, but I'm saying Kaido got caught up in this whole situation, which means 2 things. One, Reggie had talked about how much money TSM had spent on these guys. We spent over $1 million on Kaido and Shen Yi, whatever. Seems like a lot of that money was going to Shen Yi, which is all the more insane, especially when you see how the season's gone for TSM, that they've been a last place team or bottom of the table team in both splits. But also, the interesting question is, how big of a role did Peter Zhang play in getting Kaido and Shen Yi onto TSM? Was Peter Zhang telling TSM, hey, Kaido and Shen Yi, they're super good. They're the guys we need. This is who we need to get. Even though he maybe didn't think they were all that good, or maybe knew they weren't super good, or maybe wasn't totally sold on them, but he knew that he could use these guys to get a bunch of money from TSM. That's where this whole thing is a real slippery slope. That's where it gets really, really crazy if that potentially happened. Now, maybe TSM, knew Kaido and Shen Yi were the guys they wanted, and then Peter Zhang was like, hey, TSM wants you guys. You want me to help you get on the team or whatever? Or maybe, Peter Zhang had some connections, like, hey, those are the 2 guys I can make $250,000 off of, so I'm just going to tell TSM, hey, I'm our head of development or whatever. These 2 guys are studs. Let's go get them. I don't know, super, super crazy. And just think, with how disastrously this season has gone for TSM, how much of it is Peter Zhang to blame? And then, the question becomes, should Reggie have known about this and been able to stop it? Should Parth have known about this and been able to stop it? Should Lena have known about this and been able to stop it? How many people dropped the ball in this whole situation? It starts to get really, really nasty, really, really quick. But yeah, so, I mean, he, got a $250,000 bag from a couple players this offseason by, working on behalf to get them on the team, or I don't know, crazy. I mean, he ended up with $250,000 in salary from these two players, which is insane. Evidence suggests that during his employment, Peter Zhang shared non-public information regarding TSM's recruiting decisions, potentially in exchange for personal benefit. More nasty stuff there. In October of 2021, Peter Zhang agreed to sell the car of Sword Art to send the player full proceeds of the sale. Peter Zhang told the player that he should assume that Peter Zhang told the player that he should assume that Peter Zhang bought the car from the player for $80,000. Peter Zhang repaid $35,000 to the player. The $45,000 balance owed to the player has not yet been repaid. So he not only took that $250,000, he's now stiffing Sword Art on $45,000, which is, these guys are rich, but $45,000, that's still $45,000. And then you have the last part of this whole thing. Between January 18th of 2022 and March 18th of 2022, Peter Zhang solicited a total of 8 TSM players over which he had managerial authority, which means he was going to active TSM players and staff members to lend him approximately $15,000. TSM became aware of Peter Zhang's solicitation on March 18th and took immediate action to reverse the pending wire transfers, preventing Peter Zhang from receiving at least $20,000 more. So, I mean, he's got $45,000 from Sword Art, $250,000 from these players, almost $20,000 more from the team. I mean, this guy was a demon. He was taking money from everybody. And again, was he blowing this money? Did he owe somebody money? Was he just trying to get his hands on as much money as he could? Like, what was his plan? What was going on? Who the fuck knows, man? This is insane. And all of this has led up to the permanent banning of Peter Zhang. Now, obviously, the questions are going to be, what could have been different for TSM this year? What would the roster have been if Peter Zhang didn't exist? Who knows how this thing could have gone? Are any of these players or is the org or anyone going to get any of this money back? Is Peter Zhang just made off of this money and now, he's set, whatever? But like I said, even if he did end up with $300,000 or whatever, he's not going to live the rest of his life on $300,000. You can't imagine. I don't know. But yeah, Peter Zhang's permanently banned. Like I said, I don't know if this is all alleged or if it's 100% confirmed or whatever, but if it's confirmed, good riddance. Hopefully he can't affect our ecosystem, our players, our orgs, or anyone ever again. Obviously, it's funny to poke fun at TSM and throw shit at them and all that stuff, but this was a really disappointing situation for a lot of these people involved. I think it is fair to question how much TSM should have known and overall how much they dropped the ball in this whole situation, but at the end of the day, this was a guy going rogue and doing some really, really crazy shit, and a lot of it was able to happen because TSM trusted him and these players trusted him, and I don't know, I guess be careful who you trust, who knows, but crazy, crazy, crazy situation. Peter Zhang competitive ruling permanently banned from the Riot Games ecosystem. Not super shocking. Like I said, I think this was really the only way for them to go, but now it's official. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Let me drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about anything we talked about in this video today. Subscribe, stay up to date on my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.